This evening, the Precinct 4 Constable's Office attempted a traffic stop on a stolen vehicle described as a white box truck near the intersection of Holsworth Road and Cypresswood Drive in Spring. After the driver then attempted to evade law enforcement, leading on to a lengthy vehicle pursuit that entered into Montgomery County a couple of times, back into Harris County. That vehicle pursuit eventually ended up on Hardy Toll Road, traveling southbound. The vehicle then exited the airport connector and then onto JFK Boulevard. At that point in time, deputies successfully spiked the vehicle, popping the front two tires of that vehicle. The vehicle then continued evading law enforcement before they eventually took a left-hand turn onto McCowan Drive. At the dead end of McCowan Drive, there's a gate that enters, that leads onto the airport property. The suspect vehicle crashed through that gate onto secured airport property and continued eluding and evading law enforcement through that secured area, crossing over some taxiways and some cargo areas before that vehicle eventually came to a stop in the near the south side of the B terminal, Terminal B. At that point, the driver then bailed the vehicle, eluded law enforcement. A short while afterwards, the suspect was eventually located by law enforcement in the tunnels near the Marriott Church, or near the Marriott Hotel. The suspect was then taken into custody, and that is currently under investigation, and we're pursuing a variety of charges at this time.
Do you know what was in the truck?
So at this point, once the vehicle was stopped, we had, given we're on airport property, with the assistance of the Houston Police Department, we had the vehicle swept for any potential explosives. That came back negative. The vehicle now is not been tampered with yet, and will be taken to a secure facility for processing, and so we'll know shortly.
Was he acting alone, just one suspect?
The vehicle was only occupied one time, and it was occupied by a 35-year-old male, white male.
About how long did you say the chase lasted?
I don't have exact time, but about a half an hour.
What were some of the kind of bumps with that, or what kind of bumps did that create?
Sure, no. Thankfully, we had plenty of assistance with area partners, the Houston Police Department, DPS helicopters, Precinct 1, Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, all assisted in some capacity with this pursuit. And thankfully, there was not a lot of cars on the roadway when this took place, so there was no additional risk. There was at least minimal risk out there. But thankfully, it ended like it did, and there's no additional harm that comes from it.
Why was the decision made to flatten his tires? Because he was at the airport, could have maybe gone on a runway or something?
Our concern was he's getting closer to the airport. There could be people lined up here waiting to drop off or pick up. Traffic could pick up just because it's a little more densely populated and consolidated over here, and we wanted to try to prevent any additional harm that may have taken place.
When was the vehicle reported stolen?
I don't have that information yet, but it was reported on the Harris County Sheriff's Office.
What kind of charges may be facing?
Right now, we're looking at a variety of different charges, including unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, trespassing, felony evading, and we're also going to work with our partners at the FBI field office to entertain what federal charges may exist for entering airport property.
It sounds like it's one of those situations that it could have been a lot worse, thank God.
Absolutely, could have been a lot worse, and thankfully we had a successful ending, especially because of our partners with the Houston Police Department, C1, Montgomery County, DPS, and the Sheriff's Office.
How were you able to get him in the tunnel? Was it through cameras, or how did you spot him?
Thankfully, we had some eyewitness help, some cameras, and there were minimal places he could go, and so thankfully he was shortly apprehended in those tunnels.
So you said he crossed over a couple of taxiways?
At least,
that a runway or runway?
Sure. Yeah. As far as we're concerned, we consider that a runway, and that's why we're going to work with our federal partners to see what options exist.
On a runway,
Correct.
So he ran into the Marriott and got the tunnel system there?
Not exactly sure his path to get into the tunnels, but that was where he was eventually located.
You may have already covered this, but why did the chase begin in the first place?
It was an occupied stolen vehicle, and so the deputies attempted a traffic stop on the stolen vehicle.
Did he exhibit any kind of behavior that was kind of strange? Did he act like he was under the influence? Did he say anything?
Aside from running from the police and driving onto an airport property, nothing else out of the norm.
What possibly could have happened if he had gotten onto the property and started?
We could what if all day long. It certainly did impact some airport operations, but thankfully they got back up and running very, very quickly. But it always could have been much, much worse had there been an active taxi, active cargo vehicles going to and from. But thankfully, no additional incidents took place.